Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome to Playing Above the Line. I'm Alan, your host, and we have a little bit different episode for you this week. And producer Carrie is with me as always. And Carrie and I have often really enjoyed the conversations with the guests before and after the episodes, right, Carrie? I mean, there's always things that come out that we wish we could have captured. Do you agree?
I do agree. Usually people are a little bit more comfortable, and so the conversation is a lot more funny or lighthearted or just more real because they don't feel like they're on mic.
Right. And so we've often said that, I wish we could just leave the record button pressed and just kind of see what happens. And so that's what we did. And the platform that we have used the last couple of weeks, which is Zoom, to record the episodes has made that possible. And so we're able to press the record button, have those conversations. And last week with Dr. Guess, after we actually ended the official episode, she had some great things to say about education. And so producer Carrie suggested that we just make that the episode this week because it was very, very insightful. As you could tell from the episode last week, she's very passionate. And so Carrie thought it'd be a great idea to bring you the conversation after the conversation. And so compliments of producer Carrie, we're going to bring that to you right now. So I hope you enjoy this behind the scenes look at the interview with Dr. Guess. Now, see there, that was not painful at all, was it?
Not too painful. But Alan, there's some things I would love to have said about education that I try so hard to get through to students. And that is that teachers cannot educate. Only the student can educate through lots of hard work and studying. And that's hour after hour, week after week, putting in the hard hours and the hard time. That's what your class did that made you successful. Well, you guys were willing to put in the hard work and the long hours and to do what it took to be successful. And what my students want to do today, and it's not just mine, we as professors talk about this a lot, and that is that students want it spoon-fed to them, as we say. Just tell me the answer, let me move on. I really have got other things to do. And there's so much multitasking going on. They're so distracted when they're trying to study and things of that nature. And they don't realize they need a space with no distractions, that they need space where their mind can truly concentrate on what they're doing without anything else going on around them. And instead, they sit with an iPhone and a computer and messaging and everything else, and it just hampers their brain. And they don't understand how the brain functions. And I think if we could help them to understand how learning takes place. And the other thing I think we've done in education is we have taken the family out of education, and therefore we have divorced children from their parents. That's why we don't have family dinners anymore, because we have them in so many social activities, so everybody gets a prize and a trophy, as we like to say, and everybody doesn't deserve a trophy. Sorry.
Right. Look, you were so right. I've struggled with this even with my kids. I mean, I want them to be successful, and so sometimes I think that I maybe made things too easy on them and maybe tried to solve some problems for them that I probably shouldn't have. So I think some of what you're saying is maybe a parent issue. It's not necessarily all a student issue. It's a parent issue, because we're trying to say, look, I want to go and mow down all these obstacles before you even have a chance to deal with them. But then when you get into the real world, life happens and nobody's there to tell you what to do, and you don't know what to do, right? Because your parents didn't let you figure it out. So,
and the way that children, I think even as 5 and 6 year olds, is that you let them have a problem, see a problem, and solve the problem for themselves instead of you going in and solving it for them. oh, Johnny, don't you know that pick up that red color, and that's red right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want them to be popular and we want them to be well-rounded. But at the same time, we're not giving them any space to make their own decisions. And then when they get out of school and they're faced with making all of their own decisions, they don't really know how.
Right.
And it's partially not their fault.
No, I totally agree with that. I mean, you're right. And we failed, Madeline and I failed, I think, at making them sustainable, to some extent. But I think we were aware of that. We tried to make them be able to work through some of those issues. But I tell you, man, it's tough.
Sure.
It's tough.
It's hard to be a parent, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Now, so your daughter's in Florida.
Mm-hmm. She is.
Do you have any family out in Texas where you going, or are you just
Oh, yeah.
going?
I've got my daughter that's deceased. Her 2 children are there. And my daughter that's in Florida, her oldest daughter is there.
Okay, good.
So I will actually be moving to San Antonio, close to her oldest daughter.
Okay, good.
My daughter in Florida was a little bit miffed at me because she said, well, you could have moved to Florida, where I am. And I said, well, I could have, but guess what, dear? I have no idea how long you'll be in Florida until the wanderlust hits you again.
And the grandkids are in Texas. I mean, so
that's right. And, they get priority. Sorry, kid.
Oh, good, good. What did the folks at Sanford tell you when you told them it was time to retire?
They're going, really? And it was so funny because my department chair goes, well, I thought you'd stay another year. And I think that they're not going to replace me.
No, they can't replace you
right now. Well, I mean, they're not going to fire anyone for the position because they actually are overstaffed right now in the accounting department by what we call your normal load is 3 courses. And so we're overstaffed by 1.5 courses, which means we have about half a faculty member too many. And the accounting program has been decreasing in size, even though the School of Business has been increasing in size. And as you know, Alan, I don't believe in making things, I don't want to say making them easy because would not be a true statement. I don't believe in making things to where students don't feel challenged and have to study.
Oh, I know.
And to give them all the answers so they can just go study answers, you're not really helping them.
Oh,
and that's not education. And I'm gonna tell you my philosophy on education.
I can't wait.
You have 3 stages in your life. Well, you actually have about 4, but we're going to talk about just 3 of them. You have from birth through high school. That is a full stage of life of dependency on your parents most of the time because you're living at home, you're accountable to them, blah, blah. Your next stage of life is college. The 3rd stage of your life is the work world. College is a bridge between parents that dote over you, take care of you, tell you everything to do, to a real world that tells you nothing except get it done. We don't care about your excuses. That's not our problem. If you don't like it, there's the door and we have someone else that can take your place. So college is in between those 2. So we're the bridge. I told my students this semester, I said, if this university, and I told my department chair this, that I told him, if this university does not prepare you to grow up and mature in such a way that you can face the hard world when you graduate, you need to come back and demand your tuition back. Because that's our job, is to prepare you for the tough world that you're going to face. And if we don't do that, we have done a huge disservice to our students.
Well, you're totally correct, but I can tell you that you are in the minority as far as educators at the college level who recognize that and who want to invest in the actual lives and the person of the student. At Auburn,
Mm-hmm.
well, and Carrie knows. I mean, Carrie went to Auburn. She taught at Auburn. I mean, they are there to teach you what's in that textbook, and they may not even know your name.
Mm-hmm.
They just know that.
Yep.
That.
Oh yeah, I taught at one of those very large universities.
So and so you're right. I totally agree with you. But I mean, I wish more people had that philosophy. They're in education, but they don't. I mean, higher education, they just don't, and it's sad, really.
Well, the thing is, that's the reason I'm kind of tough on my students, is because, I'm going, nobody's going to spoon feed you when you get out of here. Nobody is going to care if you make an A. That isn't the way life grades. Life doesn't grade A through F. Life grades A and F. That's how life grades, because you either make it or you fail. So there. It is hard when you are fighting the establishment. And believe me, I have fought the establishment for years.
Oh, I remember some of the...
At every university where I've been.
I know. I remember some of the stories that you told me about some of your struggles doing what you wanted to do at Sanford. But the great thing about you is you just did it.
That's right.
They just dealt with it, right? I mean, so anyway. Carrie, you understand why I love this woman right here?
Well, I love Alan. Alan and Rob, I'll tell you what, they were a pair. I got to tell you something about this class, though, Carrie, that we didn't tell. And that is, there was 12, 14 of you, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Only 2 students out of that group did not pass the CPA exam on the first sitting. Of course, they had a hard time passing. It wasn't an accounting course. It was law.
Yeah.
It was business law. And they wore the pavement out between here and Montgomery, retaking B-law. But they finally both passed it. And it's because I think that the students were really pushed, and they really knew that not only did I care about their success in the professional world, I cared about their individual success as people in their lives. It takes a lot of energy to care.
Right. And I think that's why a lot of people don't, because think about how you talked about what it takes just to publish in journals and to,
Mm-hmm.
progress and to receive tenure and to be promoted to professor and all those things. And then you add on top of that, trying to invest in the lives of your students. Man, I mean, that's a big undertaking for sure.
Well, but I do love my students, Alan.
Yes, 10-4 to that. 10-4 to that. Well, I can tell you 3 of your students who are looking forward to dinner on Friday night. We're excited about, and I don't know if you know this, Michael Wallace is going to be there with us. So
you're kidding.
Oh, yeah, I called
wow.
him. I said, can you be in Birmingham at 6:30 on Friday night? And he said, for what? And I said, well, Dr. Guest is retiring. She's going to Texas. We got to take her to dinner. He's like, I'm there. He said, I don't even know what I got on my calendar. He was riding down the road in his truck. He said, but I'm going to be there.
Well, thank you. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
I'll look forward to it.
Excited about it. All right. I'll see you Friday.
Okay. Bye, Alan.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. And as always, a big thank you to producer and editor Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avisogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.